Alright folks, so I'm kind of at the point where I haven't got any other excuses. I've been putting this off and off and off and off and off. Put it off before the show went, and I'm putting it off now. Been doing every other thing I can do. It's just going to be a fiddle and a headache. Here's the problem. Here's the remit. Clutch pedal. I've had to cut away for the clearance for the master, so on this side I need to add more metal. That's not too much of a bother. That'll probably take me half an hour at most. But these two switches are really important. There's a switch on the master which actually helps the ECU know exactly the position of your clutch. So it's not just digital on-off, but these are digital on-off. One tells the ECU that the clutch is down all the way, and the other tells that you have also put it down all the way, or that actually in fact it's up all the way. So the two switches have to be basically in the same location, but do opposite things. So this one has to go out when the clutch goes down. Well, they actually both go out when the clutch is down, but by the by. No, they don't. This one goes in when the clutch goes down, and this one goes down. So what I'm hopefully going to do is, as you can kind of see here, I've cable tied them in the positions I knew that to be. We'll put a plate here, which when the clutch is up, pushes that down, like that. And then when you put the clutch down, it drops. So we'll probably put the plate that holds it underneath, and we'll put it on some studs and make it adjustable in some way. Because, you know, there's a good probably 10-15 mil of movement, and we need to get this just right. Otherwise, it basically won't start if it's not right. Same with this one, however, we've got a really tight space to work with in here, so it's going to have to be in there somewhere, basically. We're going to have to weld a little plate onto here that pushes against this switch, and the switch will work kind of under there, like that. So we might just have to cut a little bit of this plate away, just to give us access to do that. And then we'll have to do the same thing, we'll have to make it somehow sort of adjustable, just so we can get it right. Now these tend to be sort of semi-adjustable, can't remember how you reset it now. But I want the movement as it is. It's dependent on starting and obviously running, so it needs to be absolutely spot on. I don't want any of this faffing around with every time I try and start the car. So let's just get on with it, shall we? There's not much to say other than that, really. We'll try and just do one switch today. I've only got a couple of hours this morning, and see how we get on. A couple of cardboard cut-out thingies, working out where the bends would be and the holes would be, etc. And then the actual thing. So there it is, with a couple of punches on it, just to make those bends much stronger than they are. It's an OEM thing, that. A couple of holes. What we're going to do now is just going to weld on a couple of M6 nuts on the back of that. But for ease of positioning, I'm just going to position it on there, put the holes in, and then weld the nuts on. And then we can get that final position, give it a lick of paint, and that should be Robert your mother's brother. So that's a good in that. And what we can do here is we'll weld the nuts on, and then we can just add some spaces on the back here to position it without any complications, really. You know, just put a couple of washers in, and that would space it lower. We've got it at its highest position that I think it will work fine. It's literally an on-off switch, and the positioning is that's on and that's off. So there's not much, you know, it doesn't have to go the whole range. So that's good. Right, let's finish it up with a couple of nuts, position it on and bolt it on, and then we can get ready to move on to the next bracket. We'll paint them when they're finished at the end. And there she is in place. So actually I was wondering if I can actually get that switch in and out or not, but I can, so that's really nice. It's a little bit of a loose fit, but I'm going to check that once I've got a lot of paint on it. Literally that might be all it needs. It's too tight and it'll break the plastic tabs. Otherwise we will just put a little ring rubber washer on it, and that'll just give it a nice squeeze. So there it pushes against our pedal, which is a bit difficult to tell you because it just kind of falls over when you're pushing the pedals at the moment. I think I have allowed too much, but if it's too far down, it also won't work properly. I want it literally as soon as you touch the pedal to come down, so we might add a little spacer in here, but otherwise I'm happy with it. Yeah, it fits nice. So now we just know we've got this much room here to try and fit this in. So this piece of plastic here will probably have to go. This one isn't so easy to connect. Not sure quite how I'm going to do it yet, but it's going to have to fit in somewhere like that, but just under there with a little tab that's going to come around and push on this. Yeah. So we can see we've threaded a bolt that's going to secure this plate in place. A little, well, let's just call it a blob of weld, shall we? We can't put a second bolt in there, and I thought of a few different ideas. Seemed to be sort of almost an OEM thing where you get one bolt and then you get something just to tag it. I could go tag through. I just put a spot of weld there and drill the hole, and then that stops rotation and holds position. Probably going to just drill a little hole through the bottom of the plate just to put a cable tie on it. I know that sounds a little bit, I might change my mind on that, but it just needs something just to stop it coming up. Slides in lovely on the slots. Hopefully you can see that, it keeps on focusing. Slides lovely on these slots here. And you have to take it out as one unit anyway. There's no way it's going to go in there without cutting this, and I don't want to do that. So our next little job, that's definitely going to have to be spaced, that sensor there. I mean, I've done it the right way round, if you like. Yeah, don't focus on anything, camera, thanks. I think it's going to be probably about there when it comes up. So, and it needs to go to there. So we've probably got about 10mm, we need to space it down. So probably just put a couple of tube spaces there, no problem. Then we can adjust it exactly as we want it. On this side of things, let's get the light round. All we've got left to do basically on this sensor, which is the down sensor. You can just see it in there, that grey tab. So as this comes up, it needs to press it down. And we kind of need it adjustable. So I'm going to probably weld a little tab with an M6 nut welded onto the tab, and then a bolt here that can be adjusted in or out just to get the perfect positioning, so it actually goes down when it's down. That's the plan next. Not much to show you, I'm afraid, like happenings, a couple of hours of working things out and having tea and all the rest of it. So we're getting there, and then we can whip all this off, weld this up, and weld an extra plate on the side of this to obviously not allow that to bend. Cool. Rap, 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 rap. Buddies and friends and chaps and ladies. Basically this, which doesn't look very much, does it really? But you know, some of you say, oh, show us what you're doing. This is what I'm doing. I'm welding a nut to a little loop of, if it's going to focus, gotta love them on cameras, you just focus on what I'm looking at. We've got a nut, M6, welded into a little loop of 2mm steel, which then will slide onto here to push the little switch in. On a nut, obviously it's adjustable. And then we can have a lock nut on it as well. Show them what you're doing, Piggy. And then we have a lock nut on the top here as well, or on the back of it. Oh my life, would you just focus? Have a lock nut on it as well. And that should then be adjustable. So that once it's in the car, I can put it in exactly the right spot that when the clutch is all the way down, it clicks on the switch. That's the idea, isn't it? So, clean this up a little bit. And then we'll put some markings on the pedal, and then we'll get the pedal off and we can weld that in. Maybe we can tack it in place, then pull it apart and do the final welds along with the welds that need to be finished. That's the plan. Weld it in. As I say, we've got to reinforce this area on this side and weld along here. We're going to change the welding wire for that. We've been on 0.6 for 4 months or whatever. But basically it's going to sit in its rest position somewhere there. So we do have to space it down. That switch quite a bit, because actually in the rest position we want that switch kind of working like that. Yeah, and it's at the moment it's there, so it's not quite right. But that's fine. That's fine. Maybe I'll even put like a stopper on that or something, maybe, that I can adjust that as well. It's not a bad idea. It's a lot of work, mind. I might just put spaces on that, that's easier. I can get to that. This bit is really tricky, as you can imagine. Like once this is bolted in, if you know minis, this is all inaccessible. So I've got to make it as easy as possible. So through from the engine bay, I can actually just about adjust this, I believe. And then maybe, I don't know, it'll take some fiddling. But once it's set up, it's done. So once I know where the stop positions are, which is going to be about there, so that then the switch needs to be pushed in. And you can just see inside there, that bolt then just pushes that in, and it's adjustable. So if it's not quite doing it right, we can undo that lock nut, wind it in, wind it out, and make it so it does. So let's remove this, reinforce this, weld that up. We'll work out some spaces for that, in readiness, and then this can be painted and the pedals are done. The master is the next thing to do, to plate that up, which we'll come to that another episode, or maybe on this episode. But for now, let's weld this up and then show you all finished like YouTube magic. So this is a rather warm piece of metal now. We've welded our little bolt tab, I think I mentioned that. We have, oh, that's hot. We have now properly welded on the arm, which is actually the original 4-piece. It was welded on much lower. In fact, there's a weld across a little seam I cut a bit too tight. So it's welded down here. And we weren't getting the leverage in any way that we needed for it. So that's higher up, as high as it can go, pretty much, as you can see. And then we've cut some clearance out, so we've sort of double skinned it with another plate of 5mm and welded that all the way around as well. So it just comes to grind it clean, give it a paint. Job's done. Woohoo! Late breezy August evening. You can imagine how late it is. Need a cup of tea. Our clutch woes, if you remember, if we go back a few episodes, we had to raise the clutch. We did it actually twice in the end. We had to raise it up, and we've had to move the pivot point on the clutch so that the clutch is hopefully lighter. We had the travel, but it was actually a short pedal, so it was literally about sort of 4 inches, 3 inches maybe 3 inches. And obviously the longer the travel, the easier the clutch is, isn't it? Should be a nice light clutch, it's hydraulic. So the old plate has been chopped off somewhere. This was the old plate. This was looking holier than the Bible. And this is the new plate. So we used the original, because obviously we had to use all the reference points. We've taken all the measurements in the car. Car's not here at the moment. So we've used the original plate with the standoffs. And then we took all the measurements we could, and then a 2mm plate. We've done the old punches along there, the OEM punches, to give it rigidity. So there's no brackets coming across, and it is absolutely solid. You really have to, you know, I can't bend it now, and I could bend the other one, and it had a couple of brackets on it. So it shows you what just 4 punches OEM style does. And then plug welded at the top, and then a couple of seam welds around the back, around the front, on the front and back ends. So we'll just clean that up now, give it a lick of paint, and that's a job. I'm really pleased with that. We need to find a new bolt that goes into the nuts that I've got in the bulkhead. And because I've elongated the holes here, we might have to do something on the bulkhead to seal that up. That might be a case of tiger seal and a piece of acrylic, but yeah, all good. So just to show you how it does hopefully bolt up, because now I've welded it. Obviously those holes line up nicely. That bolts on like that. That bolts the bulkhead, and Robert's your mother's brother. So shout out to Robert if you watch him. I do have a good friend called Robert, very good friend called Robert. So hi mate. Anyway, unlikely he's watching this, but if he is, hi. So let's grind this off. Just need to make sure we've got clearance on the back side for that, and along here for the brake pedal. So not much grinding, just a quick clean up and a bit of paint. Okay everyone, so giving it a coat of paint, which is obviously pointless because then when you bash it together all the paint gets scratched and it'll rust anyway, so that's great. But it kind of functions, it kind of looks alright, it almost looks OEM as well, like they left this little gap just for me. They didn't in fact leave that gap for me, they probably left it for like vents or something that I don't know about yet, so that's fine. But it will work, it will function. There's a plate that's going to be on the other side of the bulkhead for here to cover that plate out, and to give this grommet somewhere to go. This grommet here actually sits, if I can get it up with one hand, no jokes. The grommet sit like that, obviously seal the world off from the inside. There's our brake pedal switch for brake lights, so that's just the OEM fitment one, that's fine, we haven't touched that. And then we've got our clutch pin for the master, our brace bar welded in because we had to take some off for clearance, so that's all welded in nicely around there. I think it's probably just slightly bent it. There's a lot of heat we put into it, but hopefully it'll be alright. Hammer, And then we have our two switches. So we have a switch which tells the ECU that the pedal's gone down, and a switch that tells the pedal's gone down. Yep, go figure. And there's also a sensor in the actual master cylinder that tells the ECU that the clutch has gone down. So, don't know why there's so many, but there is. It's difficult to show you one-handed, but I'll try. So, pedal goes down, which means that that switch under there comes out. You see that? And then as the pedal goes down, here, you see that inside there, hopefully it'll focus in there, a little grey bit of plastic, that's the switch. And then that little M6 bolt, which is adjusted on a little spanner the other side. A little you put a little socket or spanner on that side as well, and you can adjust it and then lock it in place. And that, just as that goes to full travel, click. So it works quite nice. We'll know for sure the adjustments, and we can adjust it on the two screws at the top and on this at the back, that once it's in the car we know exactly where it is. I did mark it, I think, originally, and then I sanded it off, so that was good. So, if this is the end of the episode, cool, nice lighting, then give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, share the videos and stuff. It's a cool build, EcoBoost in a Mini, what's not to like? And soon we'll have the shell back and we'll stick all this stuff in there and find it doesn't fit, so woohoo, look out for that episode. And you know, we don't want that.